I wanted to make this video today to talk about people that have been through trauma or some type of abuse in their lives or in their past. Um, it's something that I can personally relate to, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking I would actually like for abuse or trauma to be normalized, meaning I wish that people who have been through trauma and have been abused, physically, mentally, sexually, whichever way they've been abused, they would feel not like they're one in a million, um, not like everybody else has had, a normal life growing up and they haven't been abused, and because they have been abused, they don't know if anybody else has been or not, so they just assume they're the only ones, and then they feel like they're abnormal or that they're weird or that, they don't deserve to have a happy, pleasant childhood or young adulthood or whenever the abuse happened. Whenever you've been abused or traumatized by something, speaking from personal experience, you feel isolated. You feel weird. Like you're this weird person. Like you aren't like the rest of the people who are normal, and you're not normal. You feel very, you feel like an outsider. I just wish that people who have had a traumatic past, they wouldn't have to live in this kind of shameful shadow and have this dark cloud follow them around everywhere they go, because it does stay with you even after the traumatic event or events have ended, or after the abuse has ended. It stays with you. And for me, every single day after, you think about it, even subconsciously, you think about it, even if you don't want to. It affects you, how you behave, how you interact with other people, how you think about other people, what you expect from other people. It stays with you, and it's a very long process to kind of diminish the effects that it has on you. For the longest time, I thought, for many years, I was thinking, because of my unpleasant past, because of being sexually abused and just abused in general, I felt like I didn't deserve, or I wasn't worthy of, a positive future. And I don't know if this is just me or if anybody can even relate to this or not, but for me, I felt like because my whole childhood had been ruined because of the abuse or the trauma, I felt like because of that part of my life was ruined and I didn't want it, I just wanted to just take the whole thing and delete it and just kind of start fresh. The abuse was this part of my life, and then moving forward to have a happy part of my life where, I was happy and fulfilled and there was no abuse. I didn't want that, because I knew that when I look back on my childhood and I was happy later on, but looking back, I would have felt that disgust and hate and just embarrassment and sadness looking back. I didn't even want to have any happiness in my life at all, because I figured, what's the point of being happy later on if looking back I'll just be sad on the first half of my life. Maybe it's just me and my perfectionist, obsessed with perfectness attitude about everything. I feel like I want all or nothing, so it has to either all be perfect or I don't want any of it. So I use the example of, if somebody were to say, give me an apple, and this is just an example, and if that whole apple isn't perfect and the best apple in the world, the perfect apple, if it had a big, huge bruise on it, on the side of it, why would I want that apple when it's the only apple that I'm ever gonna eat, that I'm ever gonna get to experience? And it's tainted by this huge bruise on it. And why would I want it if it's bruised? I want a whole perfect apple. And that's the way that I see my life. Is I get one life to live, And I only get to experience childhood once. I only get to experience young adulthood. Everything you only get to experience once. So why would I want a life if, a huge portion of it so far, I'm only 25, but like 17 years of it has been tainted, and I call it ruined by the abuse and the trauma that I have experienced. So I always grew up thinking, like, I don't want my life. I don't even want a happy future because this big portion of my life has been ruined, and I'll never get to experience how I imagined a good childhood would be, how I wanted to actually experience my childhood. I'll never get to experience that. The victims of abuse take some blame for what happened to them. It's how it naturally happens, I guess. They naturally take either part or the whole blame for what happened to them, even though it's not their fault at all. And they feel like, I must be a bad person. Like, it must be because of who I am that I was abused. And that's not the truth at all, but that's just how it feels to people who have been abused. I only realized this recently, that I felt like it was something that I did, like it was because I'm less deserving or less worthy of a happy life than, another person walking down the street. And that's why they got a happy life or a happy childhood, and I didn't. And that's why I was deprived of that, because I must be, genetically a bad person or something. That's how my brain tried to make sense of it all. And that's what led to me thinking, in my future, I don't deserve to be up where all these normal people are, who are successful, who grow up happily married, owning their own business, making lots of money. I felt like I don't deserve to be up there with those people, because I guess I'm a bad person because of my bad past. It's such an unpleasant experience that I had growing up, that I thought it just automatically meant that I must continue having a bad future, because it's like the trajectory, I think that's the right word, trajectory of my life. Because I had a bad past, it must mean that I have to continue on to a bad future. That's how my mind tried to make sense of it. Because I figured only people with good pasts had good futures. And one thing that I don't stand for or tolerate is when people feel like they can compare hardships between different people. Nobody has ever been through the exact same struggle or the exact same life experiences as another person. Everybody may have had similar experiences, but nobody has had the exact same sequence of events. I want to bring up the example of when, say, two black people connect with each other because, say, they've both been pulled over by a cop and, been victimized by police, and they look at me and they say, you're not one of us. You'll never know what it's like to be black. You'll never know, that experience of being pulled over just for being black. And they'll look at me and say, you're privileged because you're white. And they have no idea what I've been through. And they'll say, you're white, so you're privileged, so you've had a happy life. You don't know what it's like to suffer. You've never been through what I've been through. You've never had a hardship because you're white. When, in the meantime, two people, no matter what skin color they are, can have had different experiences, but similar feelings, similar outcomes from those experiences. So I've experienced from my past, yes, I've never been pulled over by a cop, but I've experienced judgment. I've experienced self-hatred. I've experienced forms of depression. I've wanted to kill myself before in my past. Never look at somebody and judge them by their attitude or their exterior appearance. Assume that you can know exactly all of the experience they've had and all the feelings that they've ever experienced. And you don't know how that person feels about themselves unless you're that person. So you can never say, I'm looking at this random white person walking down the street and say, they're white, they're privileged, they've grown up happy, they have a big happy family, they have brothers and sisters, they have full meal on their plate every night and day, they have a nice warm place to go home to, they have lots of money in their bank account. You don't know that. You honestly don't know that. They could be homeless and they're just going from person's to person's house looking for a place to stay at night. They could have just been raped for all you know, and they're just trying to get through the day. Some people use, as petty as it is, some people use even struggles and hardships to separate people even more, when really hardships should bring people together. Like, yes, I've never been pulled over by a cop, but I've felt certain feelings and emotions that Black people have felt. And I can connect with you, not because I'm Black or because I've been pulled over, but because I've been hurt and I've been mentally messed up. I've been victimized by certain people for sexual abuse. And it's not the same, it's not the hardships that specifically matter. It's the emotions and the reactions and the ways of dealing and coping with it that matter. And that's what should bring people together. I guess in a way, my problems or my negativity from my past has made me in a way more sympathetic and empathetic towards people that maybe I wouldn't have been sympathetic towards before. Like, if I had grown up, you know, with a perfect, spoiled, rotten childhood where I got everything I want, where everybody treated me the way that I want, I guess I wouldn't look at somebody else and think about how hard their day has been, or, you know, how they are feeling when they're crying or when they're sad. Like, because I wouldn't be able to relate. I wouldn't be able to know what it's like, you know, to cry your eyes out because you're so miserable. Growing up, I just wish somebody cared. Like, I wished that I didn't feel so isolated at the time, and I wish that I could just know somebody was going through the same thing. I grew up till I was 7 years old in Ukraine with a big family that was really close. I had my mom, my cousin, my grandparents, and my aunt. We all lived in one tiny little apartment. And I had a group of friends, and I was like really happy, and I was really close with everybody around me. And then when me and my mom moved to Canada away from all of the rest of my family, I felt really isolated. And when the abuse started to happen, my mom didn't even take my side. She didn't really even know about it. And so I felt even more isolated. And so I know what it's like to kind of go through something so alone. And so that's why I wanted to make this video for people who are feeling that way, so that they don't feel completely alone. I only see my life, right? You only see what you have been through. So that's kind of what the annoying thing about social media is that they only put out the best parts of their life. So we assume that everybody else's life is perfect, and ours, because we see all the flaws in our life, we just assume that our lives are worse than other people's. But we don't see the struggles that other people go through probably every day. We don't see how normal we are. So nobody is perfect, and it's important to remember that even those Instagram models, those celebrities, reality TV show stars, whoever, they're not perfect either. They may have had their parents die at a young age and it messed them up for the rest of their lives, or maybe they have drug abuse problems and they're hiding it, or something. Is a lot of people that have many skeletons in their closet that the world doesn't know about, but everybody has their issues, their baggage, their problems. And if they don't, then I wouldn't say that it makes them a better person. If anything, it makes them less sympathetic to people that do have issues, and it kind of prevents them from having that understanding and connection with people that have had negative experiences. Everybody has their own struggles, and everybody deals with them in a different way. And some struggles may be more difficult than others, but you can't think that just because you've had worse experiences in your life that it makes you a worse person, because that's not true. Oftentimes, we get depth from knowing such deep feelings and such negative emotions. And people always say that struggle makes you stronger. For me personally, I'd like to think that I was stronger to begin with, and that I don't want to give credit to my abuser for making me this positive, happy, strong person today, because they don't deserve that credit. I will credit myself because I have made myself this way. I was a positive, strong person before any of this stuff happened to me. And if you can relate to anything I said at all in this video, I want you to know that you're not the only one. If you had any type of struggle or hardship or abuse in your life, you're not the only one. As much as it feels like it, a lot of the time, as much as you feel left out of the goodness in life, or you may feel impure or tainted, which are big words for me. I always felt like I was those things. I don't see you that way. Because I know what you've been through, and I know that you can make it through, and you are worthy of love and happiness and a successful future, healthy relationships. You don't have to feel this burden on you forever, and it doesn't have to weigh on you every single day of your life. You can take steps in order to kind of relieve yourself of that burden. And I really hope that this has helped somebody out there, and thank you for watching.